Hi, everyone. We're just getting everybody out of the waiting room and into the meeting. Awesome. Perfect. I think we got everybody in. That was waiting, sitting in the waiting room. So, hi, everyone. Let me do the gallery view so we can all see each other.
Hello from Park City.
Yep. Hi from New Hampshire.
Yeah, we can go around the table maybe.
Hi from New Jersey.
There they are.
Hi from Iowa.
It's exciting.
Hi from Idaho.
Idaho.
Good.
Great.
Yeah, Tom and Leanne.
Nashville, Tennessee.
Yeah, Nick's in Tennessee.
Nashville, Tennessee.
It's just south of us in Huntsville.
Yep.
Huntsville. That's great.
A
You have gallery view on.
little warmer, yeah.
Great today.
That's unfair. I'm seeing some people having dinner.
Oh yeah, the halls and the Pajedniks we're putting on a seafood feast, I think, this evening.
Yeah,
Wow.
we have our lobster, our Dungeness crab,
And our parallel.
and all our
Oh, I know. Yeah, what is everybody drinking?
We have the
Wonderful.
2020 Chard and the 2016 Limelight.
Yay,
Wow.
Oh,
Great.
my.
Oh, the lime.
Water.
Good ones.
water.
Nice.
For Karen.
Cabernet Estate 2006.
Ooh,
All right.
Nice.
ooh, Argan and Gloria.
Can you throw some to me?
I'm drinking the Estate 2006 as well.
Oh,
Way to go.
Awesome.
yeah,
Interesting.
It is some old wines.
Nice.
yeah. Tom and Leanne, what are you drinking?
The Captivator 18.
Oh, 18.
Ooh.
Oh,
Okay.
great.
Wonderful. Yeah.
3 years ago.
All right. Are we ready to get started? I'm gonna change the view so we can hear Philippe, and these wanted to also, of course, introduce some of the partners in Park City. If you all want to introduce yourselves, and can you guys hear me?
Start over here.
Yeah.
Mac McBoyd and my wife, Ann, just out of view here.
Hi. Hi, I'm Val Chin, and
Steve.
my husband Steve and
Bouland.
Gulen Pulak. So we're all here except for one, and then of course Adrian is our partner as well.
Yeah, Mary's sleeping.
Great. Well, thanks so
Yeah,
much.
we're excited.
Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah,
so
we're
much.
excited to have you all here. This is the first time we've done this, so we're very excited. We're excited to have Philippe with us.
Oh,
That's very special for us.
Thank you.
All right. Yeah. Thank you, Philippe, throwing it over to you to get started. We'll just, if you all wanted to, I know people submitted some questions beforehand, but if you also wanted to use the chat during, or, unmute yourselves, I mean, it's pretty casual. So however you all, if you had a question as Philippe is going through the tasting. So, yeah, we're just super excited. So, to be releasing this vertical of parallel Cabernet. So as you all are probably aware, we won't have any 2020 reds due to the series of wildfires we had that year. So right at the end of 2020, we're like, well, what are we going to do in 2023? So we've been holding back these vintages for the last 3 years to re-release with first access to the wine club. So you'll get the formal announcement about the February club shipment on Saturday, but these are the wines that will be available for your wine club shipment in February. So we wanted to, it was very gracious for Philippe to agree and for all of us to get together here to kind of do a retrospective and kind of go through the vintages and for him to share his impressions of how they're drinking now so that you help you to make your selections for your February club shipment. So over to you, Philippe.
Well, thank you, Adrienne. I didn't bring my translator, so I hope everybody is going to understand what I'm
Okay, we'll try.
Tough, Philippe, but we'll do it.
Anyway, I'm happy to be obviously with you guys tonight. And as we all know, Napa Valley is in a fast track and there's always something going on. And like Adrienne mentioned it, you know, a lot of producers didn't, unfortunately, decided not to make any 2020. It was one of the, I would say, the most difficult decision we had to make in the last, whatever, 25, 30 years for me personally. It's basically, as we know, usually California, every year it's a great year. And over the last 30 years, we were always able to make some wine. But in 2020, we had this huge dilemma because obviously, like Adrienne say, and you guys obviously know it very well, we had a couple of pretty impressive fires. And one of them was super early, just, I don't remember the exact date, but I remember it was my first day harvesting. I was on top of a hill in Napa Valley and August, maybe 16, 17, 18, this kind of range. And then it was like really unusually humid and hot. And we started to have this big lightning everywhere. And of course, just after that, the fire started. But the main problem, as you guys know, it's smoke. And so we started to have really heavy smoke across the valley. And so we made the wines. The second fire was in October, late September, sorry, later on. But we decided to make the wine and see what happened and decided to make a decision a little bit, you know, later on because we were not sure 100% how those wines will turn out. And I have to admit, in many cases, we were pretty happy with the quality of the wine per se. But the main reason we decided to put anything on the market is we didn't know how those wines will age in a barrel. And so when we have this commitment for quality, especially over the years, by, you know, when you make those wines, there's a lot of declassification lots that we feel like are not at the same level of quality and we don't want to use them. And so that was a very different case scenario where here we wanted to declassify the lots because we were not sure how they will age in the future because it was such a different kind of scenario for us. And we look at all the research made, especially in Australia, where they started to have fire way before us. And nobody were able to tell us a little bit how those wines will age. And the problem we saw was during aging of the wine, sometimes the wines were actually tasting fine, and sometimes they were tasting very smoky. So for no reason, no apparent reason, the changes were no things that we could explain. So we didn't really want to take the risk, and that's why we decided not to make any 2020. So overall, a big, obviously difficult, as you can, financial decision, but that shows you how the folks from Parallel are committed to the quality. So I always say it's a wonderful statement, super hard decision, but we want to make sure we make the consumers like rely to the quality and at least they can feel like, you know, when they open a bottle of wine, the team behind the wine did everything they could to create a great product. So that's 2020. And by the way, we so happy right now that we got in 2 months about, you know, 1 year of rainfall. As you guys know, it was, well, the whole country has crazy weather, so I'm sure you guys got your share of it. But for us, we started to be so worried about the lack of water is starting to impact for the first time. I'm pretty, like in 2021, where we felt like we couldn't irrigate some of the vineyard we had, and 2022 as well. So we feel like finally most of the reservoir, at least around Napa Valley, are full. I'm sure the water table are much in a better shape than they were. The well, of course, as well. So that's super exciting for us. That's really the good news. Hopefully that will also diminish the risk of fires as well this year. So it's a good start. It's despite the fact that we don't have any wine.
Bodes well for 2023.
Yes, it does.
Yeah, so of course you guys going to be tired of me talking. Today I think, like Adrienne said, it's all about library. We most of the businesses that have been involved, and I'm involved, and my winery as well included, we are in the same boat. And I think it's a good time for the consumer like you guys, because you're going to have access to some of the library wines, and it's pretty rare at the end and unusual. So I have the 17, 18, 19 with me today. I don't know if you have any of that, but I think that's what Adrienne, that's what you're going to release now for the
Yes.
later on.
For the February club shipment.
Okay.
So we're going to start with, which vintage would you like to start with?
I was thinking 17 and go, older to younger, a little bit the reverse, not the French way, but I think what I call the American way. We finish with the younger wine. Because the older wine are a little more refined, with age, so they are a little less aggressive to the palate usually. So that's why I like to do it that way. It's more like a personal feel. Most of the time, I can tell you the truth. I have 3 glasses. I go back and forth, one way up, 17, 18, 19, back down, trying to, retest those wines and really trying to understand the potential of the vintage is what we remember about the vintage as well, because of course we don't test those wines every day. So it's always fun even for me to kind of go back to it. So 17 was very obviously a vintage marked by the climatic change. And that's where you realize, by the way, that some of the great terroir of Napa Valley are still performing under some extreme conditions. So we had this crazy heat wave, and what happened, it's a little bit counterintuitive, but the heat really stopped the vine to produce any sugar. And so the wines have lower alcohol in general and are fresher, which I really like, and have big structure, which usually is really good to have those big structure, those big tannins, the foundation, what I call the foundation of the wine for aging. So let's say the numbers, we always look at, the level of tannins, so structure of the wine, and the acidity as well for aging. Those two make us feel like that should be a wine who can really age well. We have the ability to really work with some of the greatest sites. So we were really focusing mostly a little niche of Oakville, Rutherford kind of range in Napa. So that's also, I think, help us. But I don't know if you probably don't have the wine, so you can test it. I can.
We have 2017.
If I can throw that to you guys. Be ready.
Yes.
We're ready.
But you can drink with me whatever you have. Personally, when I test wine, I always there's many ways to test. Like I try to keep it pretty simple. I just, as a winemaker, always trying to smell it to see if there is no defects. That's the first thing. But to really feel like if there's still some life to the wine, and I can smell something to it. Some wines you cannot smell anything, or the aromatics are not very enjoyable, I would say, or joyful. But the 17 for me, I was a little bit of more like earthy character, those kind of feel. Almost like more like a French kind of feel to them. That's also what I like. Anyway, let's try them. If you have any questions, by the way, to Adrienne or to me or to the partners, you guys jump in and don't be shy. Well, my.
That's a good first reaction.
I like the wine in 17 also for me because it's of course, as you guys can imagine, I've been around for many years, and one of the things we're trying to balance, I would say, it's really we always want to have the power of the fruit because it's California, but we don't want the grapes or the flavors to be too sweet. It's like, when you have a dessert or when you have any kind of food, you want to really balance the sweetness with acidity. That's the same thing with wine. But I feel like sometimes the wines here in California are so ripe, because the sunshine is really so intense that sometimes the sweetness overpowers the acidity. And I think in 17, that's what I really enjoy. Yeah, I feel like the acidity is strong and the fruit is not too sweet. So that's really balanced the wine super well. And I can tell you without, I don't know much, but I feel like this wine can age another easily 10 plus years. That's the beauty of it. It's super balanced. So in 17, I always focus about the quality of the tannins. And, sometimes they can be astringent or sometimes they can be chalky or what I call chewy. So the tannins of the wine, it's almost like a food, if you wish. There is a substance to them. And here they are very delicate and soft, which is also good to see. Because again, in 17, I tasted a lot of wine with almost too powerful tannins for me. So the balance is great. And if you have any guys questions on 17 or life or what I've done for Thanksgiving or New Year's Eve, especially you have to realize those, especially the partners who are always, I feel like I'm old compared to those guys who are always party left and right every time I'm talking to them. I feel like they're like, on this, the old TV show on the boat where they party all the time. That's the feeling of the
That's why you need to come out and enjoy the snow so we can go party some more.
See, you see.
But the fact is, we're the ancient ones.
I'll just say a few things about. So this is the Parallel Cabernet, which we release every February. The Black Diamond Reserve is what we release in the fall, and so we will do a similar thing in October for that wine club release where we will have the 17, 18, and 19 Black Diamond Reserve to re-release. But these Parallel Cabernet, as Philippe mentioned, Oakville and Rutherford fruit, so Valley Floor. Speaking of fires, I did want to mention that, of course, we did have wildfires in 2017, but thankfully about 95% of Napa Valley grapes had been picked, including ours. So these were harvested at late September, very early October before the wildfire started, thankfully. This particular vintage has everything, of course, is in French oak, 40% new French oak, aged about 21 months and originally released in February of 2020. On the smaller side, of only about a little over 300 cases for this vintage. So
yeah, not a lot of wine. I'm surprised you have still some library. That's wonderful. I'm glad you put them on the side.
Saving it. Yeah, saving it for 3 years. Just for today. Yeah. But was there lower? I was just looking at the production over these 3 vintages and noted in your harvest report that there was a little bit lower yields in 17. I don't know if you.
Yes. Sorry, Adrienne. Yeah, you're correct. But it was not dramatic. It was not like 2021, for example, where it's really you guys probably didn't test any 21 yet because we are actually finalizing the blends right now and working on this vintage, but it's 21. It's probably one of the smallest in size vintage that have been involved. So as a consumer, the sad part is like there's not much 2020, and it's going to be very little of 2021, just the volume of it. The good news is 21s are testing great, so very happy with the quality.
So what do you all think in Park City? You all are drinking this vintage, the 17 Parallel Cabernet? Val?
Beautiful.
It's a beautiful wine. It's, yeah, and you're right. I think you can see the balance, and I think I would, of course, agree with Philippe that it's going to age beautifully, you know. How about you,
Yeah,
Philippe?
it is. The acidity is really stronger than you usually use.
That's right.
So it's the balance is very,
Yeah.
very good.
I think it's like, what are we going to eat with this vintage?
What are we going to eat with this vintage?
Well, last night I made, was the night before last,
Right, yeah.
and it paired with it, I made a tenderloin that I called the tenderloin of Provence because I took herbs of Provence. I took a whole bunch of them, chopped them up, added some olive oil, made it into a paste. And after I prepared the tenderloin with some salt and pepper, kosher salt, the heavy coarse salt and pepper, not a lot, but just enough, you know, to give it a little oomph. And then I rolled it in this paste, put that on it, seared it, and put it in the oven for just 10 minutes after that. It came out so beautiful. We started out with French onion soup. It came out really good too. But then with this tenderloin and our Cabernet, it was fantastic. So
There you go.
that's what I would go with.
Or
my God.
here's what else. So Sunday, Philippe, is Chinese New Year. So we're gonna have it
Rabbit?
with beef. We're gonna have it with
Duck,
beef
maybe?
chow mein. So what do you think? Beef chow mein with
With a
Cabernet?
little Cabernet.
Oh, yeah.
I'm with
Whatever
you.
works.
I'm sure it will work out great.
I think we can book flights to Utah from New Jersey very easily.
Use the base.
Okay.
Very.
We're having a big Chinese dinner, yeah, for our family.
Yeah.
But all the wine club members are
7
welcome.
o'clock dinner?
Just come.
If you can get here, knock on the door.
Hey, we're there in 4 hours. Count us in.
Okay, we're waiting.
We'll bring some elk tenderloin. That's what we're having tonight.
Oh,
yeah.
there you
We'll bring
go.
some sushi tuna.
If you were writing down my recipe, the herbs of Provence, I forgot the most important, a lot of chopped garlic. It was with
Oh,
it.
yeah. Always a lot
And that made, and so when it was on the searing on the grill, the smell was just intense.
Yeah.
It was beautiful.
That sounds absolutely amazing.
It's
dish.
interesting. He reminded me very, very briefly because for Thanksgiving, it was only my wife and I this year with just my daughter who came. So we were like a small group. So we got just pieces of turkey, but I decided to kind of rub it into some kind of tamponade, you know,
Oh,
the olive
olives,
oil, olives, and then air fry it.
Oh,
And the air fryer worked wonders even with turkey. It was one of the better one that I saw. It's super simple, but it worked
Wow.
really well, especially
Right.
with red wine,
Yeah.
as we all know.
yeah.
I
What
mean,
did you drink with that, Philippe?
What's up?
What did you drink with that? Did you do of course,
So yeah, I mean, I have the bad habit in the world, drinking some Bordeaux. I was like really focusing on Bordeaux and some of the 70s vintages in Bordeaux because it's always a reflection behind wine, but the 70s were all about production in Bordeaux. So everything was made to really produce high volume and create a lot of grapes. And so we thought the 70s will never age very well, just based on the concept that if you really want concentrated, sophisticated wine, you need to really decrease the crop to a certain level. And then you realize by testing those wines, actually they're tasting great. So sometimes you know,
You
we
don't
don't
know.
know anything.
You don't know.
No. That's
But
good.
yeah, so I was having, kind of few Bordeaux wines. I have two great ones, Latour and Palmer, Chateau Palmer for the left bank.
Yeah.
were some of my
I
favorites.
love Chateau Palmer. Yeah.
So
We actually-
that was
we
my
actually had-
drink. But hey, a little parallel once in a while always brings some happiness and joy. So
Yeah.
that's the key.
Well, I gotta admit, we also had a bottle of Saint Emilion along with the Parallel and the Tenderloin.
Of course. All right.
Any questions about anything, guys? Except you guys, looks like you want to go to Park City and direct
Chinese
flight.
New Year's, yeah.
Hey, is a tiger year this year on a
It's the
Chinese
year of the
calendar?
rabbit.
Rabbit.
Oh, it's a rabbit. Okay,
Yeah, close.
got you.
They both
I'm a
have to go 2
dragon,
years.
so I should be okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
rabbit.
Okay. All right, do we want to move on to the 18?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So just switching for 18. What I will say, really like the vintage in general. I didn't start tasting the wine. I'm just talking in general. One of the great vintage in California where you can combine quantity and quality. That's really rare, and that's what happened in 18. So a lot of grapes. We talked about that earlier. Sometimes quantity doesn't match with the quality of the wine, but in 2018, there's few cases like this in over my years. I mean, I can always bring that back to even 1991 or even 2010. We talked a little bit earlier, where the vintage really kind of worked well because it was also obviously a beautiful growing season. So it's wine where you have a little bit more textural and complexity and slightly length in general compared to the 17. But obviously they both, you should drink well. But when I look at the 18, it's the color is so deep still. It's usually a very good sign of stability. Means the wine aged very slowly. And that means, I know I hate to talk about color sometimes because people get confused very quickly, but you can look at the rim of the glass for me and it's kind of still a bright red, which means, just even without tasting the wine, I know it's going to last for a long time. So hopefully if the balance is good and if it's enjoyable, it should be, we should be in good shape. But yeah, the nose feel for me, it's darker notes. So you like fresher, darker notes, a little bit more slightly herbs and spices. Those kind of feel like in 17, it was pure red fruit. So there's a little bit more intriguing element, especially on the nose side.
Yeah, actually, I've gone back and tasted all these vintages recently as well. And to me, the 18 is the biggest and fullest, even over the 19. To me, it has that really beautiful backbone, like you're saying, like the quality was really there, and thankfully we had really good quantity as well. I remember in the beginning of 2020, people were saying, "Oh my gosh, what are we going to do as these 18s come online?" And it's going to be a glut of Napa Valley Cabernet, and then a few months later, unfortunately, the fires ruined the vintage. So now everyone is very happy that they had such a big vintage in 2018 and the quality was exceptional. So, but yeah, I think there's still a lot of, it has real aging power. It's a really good structure.
Absolutely. And that's what, I mean, that's a description of the wine at the end. But for me, it's like, for example, it's a good example where I feel like the 18 is probably a little bit better than 17, just purely on the vintage. All the experts are talking about this. If I have to drink a wine today, I'll drink the 17 and I'll keep the 18 a little bit for aging, a little bit longer. And then I'm excited to test the 19 because that's what, in general, we feel like it's even the 19 are drinking even slightly better now than the 18. So we're talking about just based on timing, but purely on quality and probably feeling that the 18 could age even a little bit longer than the 17.
Yep.
We'll still see, but that's my
So-
feeling.
No,
Yeah,
that's
so-
for the phone.
So for the 18, same vineyard sourcing, Valley Floor fruit from Oakville and Rutherford. We don't, like an at least 10% more, as we were saying, the vintage was heavy. Same aging profile, all French oak, 40% new French oak, aged about 20 months in barrel. This one was released February of 2021. And we got almost 450 cases, which is extraordinary we normally do about 300. And we're thankful that we have those extra 100 and 150 cases now that we're here with no 2020 reds. I did want to throw a question, Philippe, from Erica in Huntsville, Alabama. She says, is there much difference in how you use different types of barrels and or aging from one year to the next?
You were getting a little bit, but it's about barrels and how we decide to
Types of barrels and how,
so-
aging from.
Nope, too small.
Yeah, no, it's a very good question because basically, at the end, we don't realize a barrel holds about 25 cases, so it's 300 bottle of wine. So, which means they're all extremely important because if we, let's say, put the wine in some barrels that we don't like, we can lose a lot of money. So we, over the years, of course, we are been working with all the different tonnellery or couperages and the type of oak. And so we always been French oak, it's kind of it's not because I'm French, but we felt like for the type of wines that we, wanted to create, the French oak was a little bit more delicate, I would say, has a little bit more finesse overall. So that's that. And then each tonnellery bring different things on the table. So I don't want to go too much in detail, but a tree is like a vineyard in a way, or vines. We like to get the tightest grain of oak that we can get, which means the tree has to go under some kind of water stress, if you wish, to grow, to be able to grow slowly but sturdy. And that's usually happening is with the serious tonnellery who are patient enough to really get the right trees. And then after we there's all kind of thing to toast, as you probably guys know, we toast barrels. So we put the oak on the fire to be able to bend it, but also to really caramelize the oak and trying to get different level of flavors. So that's what we work on as well. So that's that. And then on the 40% new, well, we went all over the place. I would say that's part based on really what the consumer wanted. So in the past, we were like more like closer to 80%, and it's all about the questions about what do we trying to achieve at the end as a final product. We feel like the barrels, the new barrel bring a lot of nuances and flavors and oak tannin structure, if you wish, but sometimes can be overwhelming to the wine, and yet then you start losing really the fruit expression. So that's what we want to avoid. That's why we feel like 40% works super well. So every year it's a little different, it's true, but usually when it's Cabernet based, it's very close. So it's always varied between 40 and 50%.
Wonderful. I suppose if there aren't any other questions, then we move on to the 19.
Let's do it.
Thank you. And we had no idea, I was going to say, we had no idea that there'd be like that much difference as far as like how, I can't remember how you said it, but
Tree rings.
like how tight the wood is grown, that like just that was very educational. So thank you.
Yeah, thank
You're
you.
welcome. I mean, usually they cut trees were like, so it's mostly in France, it's mostly owned by the government. So they're like a state forest, if you wish. And then they auction trees. So they mark only a certain number of trees to auction it. And then they do a silent auction. So you have to bid on the trees. You don't know if you're going to get it or not until the bidding is revealed the next day.
Did any of those big fires in France last year affect the areas where the oak comes from?
It was so last year the big fires usually are either way on a southern part of France, and for the bale and the oak more like on the northern part, you know, center and north. So they
Good.
didn't really affect. It was mostly pine trees actually.
Okay.
So do you look at the toasting level, medium plus, medium long? Where's your focus on that?
Yeah. So I mean, obviously it's a good questions, but we are really so if I want to keep it simple, you have light toast. And so that's basically usually a certain number of minutes under the fire, you know, at a certain level of temperature. But it's light, and then you kind of continue burning the oak, and then you become medium. And then if you add a little bit more, because people are more specific, you can become medium plus, and then you reach the heavy toast. And then they switch, even they added another nuances to the toast level by call it medium long, which means in fact, it's a medium level of toast, but it's attained in a different fashion, if you wish, by lower the temperature of the fire, but keep it the oak and basically the stave under this fire longer. So that's why they call it medium long. And then we were able to analyze all the components of the oak and see all the differences based on the toast level. So usually the highest quantity of flavors of, you know, palette of flavors you can get from the oak, it's in a medium part. So the decision, and if you are very light toast, you don't get a lot of flavors, but you get mostly oak structure. And if you get on the heavy side, you don't get a lot of palette of flavors, because you pass, you know, this medium kind of, yeah, I would say beauty of quantity, but you get a certain type of flavors that people like on a high toast as well. Less, but only a certain type that they want. So, you know, at the end, to keep it simple, we usually, most of the industry works on medium toast, because that's where they have the highest level of palette of flavors, if you wish. But on my hand, I worked mostly with light toast. So that's more like a personal choice, because I feel like the idea to, behind is we feel like the fruit profile in California is so intense, it's beautiful. I don't need to add more from the oak, but I want really the oak to bring more structure, because the fruit is so ripe that it becomes so soft. So you almost need the tiny structure frame from the oak to really be able to have those wines age longer.
So can
that's
we
the idea.
take one more question before we move on to the 2019 from
Yeah.
Val and John Michael in Virginia Beach, who are actually the 2022 named the vintage contest winners. So we selected
Congratulations.
their selection, Rendezvous from Jackson Hole. So Val asks, what is your process or methodology for letting bottles age versus opening for consumption? I always say, how do you like your Cabernet? That's always my response. Young and a little bit more vibrant, more tannins, or tannins a little bit aged with tannin smoothed out a little bit. I found that our wine's beautiful, get not surprisingly a little bit old world as they get older, like Mac was saying earlier in the early years, very kind of French and light in style. And so I always ask, how do you like your Cabernet, is how I tell people, when you should drink. But what is your official opinion, Philippe? And
well,
age versus drinking?
It's a great question. It's very subjective, as we know. First off, we want some drinkable wine, so that kind of thing. And then the beauty of California is, like we always say, we can make wines that you can drink right away and age as well. So that's kind of the perfect scenario where people can really enjoy the wines young and can hold them for longer aging. On a personal level, my palate changed over the years. So when I was younger, a long time ago.
Oh, not so long.
Not as long as us.
Not so long.
I like the wine who can, I can, feel something in the palate. There's this kind of interaction where, well, there's something going on. I want something aggressive, almost like Chinese food.
Okay.
Something, something imposing. So that's younger wines usually, because they have a little bit the rough age of being younger, like a teenagers. I mean, for people who have kids, they know what I'm talking about. And then when getting older, I have to admit now I like older wines because I feel like they're just a little more refined and more subtle, more finesse, because everything is basically, over the years, it's like we always say, we're losing the baby fat of the wine. And the skeleton, the skeleton of the wine, that's what left. So you can imagine you're drinking something a little bit less fat, but more refined, and that's what I enjoy a little bit more. But I'm sure the partners have something to say about it, because I know they're drinking every night. So
Once upon a time.
Yes.
Once upon a time. Maybe used to, yeah. Well, what I found is that our wines have aged very well, and our first vintage was 2003, and some of us still have. Blunt drank all of his 2003 because Philippe said, I don't know, maybe 7 years ago, drink it now. And so Blunt actually did drink. He and his family drank all of their 2003, but we kept ours, and
it was like a nouveau Beaujolais when we first drank it.
It really has held up quite. It's changed,
It's
of
so
course,
big
tremendously.
Now. How does that happen? How does something that light over the years actually gain so much? It's amazing.
So
As you
anyway.
say, it's a product that changes. It surprises you constantly. It's a living
And of course,
product.
we've been hoarding our 2007 as well, but every once in a while we'll open it up, and the 2007 is just fantastic. It's really just this.
Although my favorite is the 2011, because you mention it to people, they say, oh, 11, that's the worst year ever in the Napa Valley and Italy and whatever. And I said, wow, but Philippe was written up in one of the magazines as saying he was one of the exceptions to making wine in 2011 because you're training in Bordeaux. I'm not sure what that meant, because I thought living in Bordeaux, you just did a lot of bar hopping. But at any rate, whatever you learned when you were with Chateau Petrus and Haut-Brion paid off, because in 11, that wine is so beautiful and it's getting better and better. We hoard that. We do not drink that. We don't sample it because we're afraid we're going to be out of it. So it's a beautiful wine. So anyway.
And we have none of that left.
We have a little bit of reserve. We have a little bit of
reserve.
Yeah, we have a couple of magnums of the parallel Cabernet of 2011, and we then have a little bit of the 2011 reserve.
So that's why you got the new dog to guard the cellar.
Oh, me?
Yeah.
My 25-pound corgi.
Nobody drinks it.
Anyway, all right. Moving on to 19 parallel Cabernet.
Well, first off, it's fun for me personally, and so if folks, you don't have the luxury to be able to test those wines side by side, but one of the key for us is really to reflect the vintage. We want to make sure the wine tastes like we experienced during the vintage. And I feel like sometimes even the wine writers are forgetting about this. And they are always looking for the same character, no matter what the vintage is about. And that's how they score the wine. And I think they're missing a little bit something. So each vintage, all the noses are different to me. And that's really the important part, because 2019 was another really strong year. And between winemakers, it's always, if I ask a room of 20 winemakers, if they, prefer the 18 or the 19, usually it's, the room is split in half. So just to tell you that it's more about how we appreciate the vintage, but they're both wonderful. That means what? I'm sure without testing it that they can age obviously well. But just smelling the 19 for me, it's it feels a little bit more like I can drink it now compared to 18. Right away, I was feeling, oh, I better wait a little bit longer. Why? Just because the smell is a little bit more refined and friendly at this stage, and still complex. You feel like you smell almost the power of the wine. The 19 vintage was basically a slightly riper. So like I was saying, 18, obviously a lot of fruit, big year, but cooler weather. So we harvested later, if you wish. I'm trying to figure out, and I'm sure Adrian has a number, but in 19, we harvested, like October 18, for example. So we're more like on a later spectrum.
17 and 8, October 17 and 18. So that was actually that was the latest.
But 19 has a little bit more sunshine in September, so that's kind of reflect into the wine. It's a little slightly what I call riper fruit profile. So for people who really like the sunshine of California, I think they prefer 19. For the people who like a little fresher wine, they'll prefer 18. That's kind of a simplistic way approach, but that's the way I see it. And 19 really have, they all, but 19 especially have maybe the most refined tannins and finish is really enjoyable. So we, in the old days, it's like, how do we appreciate the wine? We always say there's like a 1, 2, 3 kind of feel on the wine. Means, when you drink a wine, there's like the first impression of it, which, sometimes we feel like the wine is almost too aggressive, or the wine is very relaxed, or the wine is very compact. And then you have the second feel is about the mid palate, if we have enough concentration, or if there's a strong presence on the mid part of the palate. And then the finish is like, if the wine stay with you, means are you still feeling the flavors of the wine after you swallow for a few more seconds? That's also, I remember the old days testing with Parker, we always talk about, like the wine has like 20-second lasting flavors after you swallow, and this one have like all the way up to a minute. And that's how really he was also trying to score the wine at the time. So all that this wine has this, for me, what I call the lush, more sex appeal of California sunshine in 19, slightly riper fruit profile, and softer tannins. So definitely another more wines ready to drink now. And of course, that, like I said earlier, because you feel like the structure and the foundation of the wine is so strong that the wine is going to age super well. Sorry, I'm having it right now. I'm really enjoying it, as you can hear.
No, I would agree. I think that the 19s of all 3 vintages is it's the youngest, but to me, on my palate, it's the most ready to drink, which is kind of counterintuitive. But this was actually the smallest of the 3 vintages. So we got about 300 cases of this. And as Philippe mentioned, it was also the latest harvest of the 3 vintages. So this was October 17th and 18th. Similar aging, 20, 21 months in barrel, but this particular, the 19 has about 67% new French oak. So it also has the most oak on it, which you would also think would then, it being the youngest, throw off the most tannins, but it's much softer on my palate and much more beautiful fruit, luscious, like I said, sexy and full. This one is the one we released last February. So yeah, and all 3 vintages have the same vineyard sourcing from Rutherford Oakville Valley Floor fruit. So that's also the fun part of the vertical, is seeing literally, how agriculture, grapes from year to year. And seeing how the different growing years have, how they express themselves in the wine.
And I'm surprised that I don't see the slogan, which I love, was "Don't drink and ski."
And ski.
It's on the cork.
Yeah.
It's on the cork.
It's on the cork, Philippe. It's
It's on the cork. Okay, I got you.
on the cork.
Sorry.
All right, so Bert and Karen from Southern California asked, you said feeling the flavors, is that how you experience it?
Yes.
Feeling the flavors.
Feeling the flavors.
Yeah, how do you experience that?
Feeling the flavors. I want to make sure, let's go back. I don't know if I'm going to answer the questions, but what the heck, I'll go with it. It's for me, the nose, by the way, people don't think it's important, but I mean, I usually, it's very interesting that the nose give you usually a good indication, obviously, of, as you guys know, about basically how quick the wine can be drunk, or you can age just by smelling it. If it's disjoncted or if it's harmonious, you can almost smell it, and you can almost smell the concentration of it. So when you use so much to smelling wine after wine after wine,
Recording in progress.
oh my, someone is talking to me. No, okay, sorry, I heard something bizarre. But all that to say, the nose is so important, but feeling the flavors, how can I say it? I don't know exactly how to explain. It's a feeling. So it's, I think anyway, I'll go back to one of the more, I mean, at least as a winemaker, one of the more important part is really how to judge the perfect timing of harvest. And we always feel like it's easy to define when to harvest based, for some people, of the level of sugar. But it's more like really, there's a lot of more things happening, because if you harvest, let's say, too early, what we say, not at the optimum level of ripeness of the grapes, the wines are interesting, but they're usually very rough, and they will need a lot of time to refine and get smoother and rounder and enjoyable. And if you harvest too late, usually the wines are what we call not have a lot of ageability, because you're losing the acidity of the fruit and you're losing really the foundation and the structure of it. So I feel like the timing of harvest is one of the key, especially with climatic change. And that's one part of the most difficult for us. It's like when you have 100+ degree days, really the grapes are changing every single minute, almost every day. It's just a different wine. So we have to really trying to get the feeling, talking about feeling, about when we can get the perfect harvest date, so the wine are still balanced and they are not, the freshness is still here, but You know, they are not too ripe and too heavy. And that's really one of the key of a successful vintage at the end for anyone.
Alan, did you have a question? I saw you do.
Did you see that the partners left?
They came back.
Oh,
Wait, Alan, let me unmute you if you have a question. So Alan from Austin, Texas.
All right, so yeah, I just opened a 19 and it's much more fruity and fruit forward than the 18. And I really like the 18. So the question becomes, do you make any adjustments? You talked about the acidity and when to harvest and when not to harvest, and carrying that fruit flavors. Do you make adjustments? Do you harvest and then make adjustments to the acidity? Or do you just base it on, we're going to pick on this day and this is the acid and we're going to live with it?
well, it's a great question, because at the end of the day that's really a debate and really a general philosophy of each winemakers in the valley. It's like, how interventionist you want to be in your winemaking. So we always felt from the beginning, you know, my first harvest year was 91. I always felt from the beginning that, you know, the less the winemakers is really trying to manipulate the wine, the better. But it's not easy, like you said. Sometimes you still want to have a pretty strong stability to be able to have the wine age. So that's why the harvest timing is key again, because you want to have all the components you need so you don't have to really intervene. Again, with climatic change and extreme conditions, sometimes what we have to do the little tweak, but they are really minor. They're very little adjustment to make sure we have, you know, a sound product at the end. But initial goal, it's to very limited any kind of intervention. For you, what I mean by that is adding acid to the wine, added color, added tannins, added all kind of products to really rebalance the fact that, oh, I harvested too late, so I don't have any more acid, so I need to add some acid into wine. Or I harvested too early, so the tannins are so rustic that I need to find and do all kind of, you know, add all kind of product to really smooth the angles so the wine at least is drinkable. So we're trying to avoid to do those kind of things, at least for the parallel winery.
So yeah, one last comment, and then other people can join in. But I'm all about consistency from year to year, and let the terroir and the vintage speak for the whatever the weather was that year, and that's what you have to deal with. And you should talk about that with these with the people that are buying this wine. It's like, this is what you're doing is wonderful and the grapes are great, but you still have to make adjustments and tweaks because it's all about vintage and year to year and consistency.
Yeah, I would say, you know, like I was saying earlier, you need to come up with your own philosophy and the way you want to do things. We the artist of the winemaking, so we definitely don't want to be like a factory and you know, like any product in the world. I mean, it's like just don't even test the wine and just looking at the chemistry of the wine on a spreadsheet and just do some adjustments based on that. So we are not those kind of people. We really are trying to define the vintage by farming, harvest timing, and then winemaking is there to really support. The biggest part of winemaking is really the level of extraction we want of color and structure during the fermentations. And so we want to make sure we ferment, obviously, the wine. And so we don't want any sugar in the wine. That's kind of the first goal. But it's really to trying to find the perfect level of, you know, tannic structure. So at least we have the balance with the alcohol and the acidity. And that's what we are looking for. So we have to test, and that's why we, you know, just even the optimum harvest is based on eating grapes. I can tell you I need like a cleanser after harvest because I'm eating grapes all day long to get a feel of when to harvest. And then during fermentation, we test those wine as well. We're very aggressive for the palate. So my whole month of usually November is trying to, you know, eat some light food, avoid Chinese as much as I can.
Absolutely perfect.
Great. So let me go to in the chat. Michael and Emily from Charlotte have a question. Philippe, you work with many wineries, have your own label. How do you make sure each one is unique? What is that creative process like with Parallel?
Well, I got lucky. I'm French, so I used to have many girlfriends when I was young, and so they all have to be happy. But on a serious note, yeah, you guys have to realize the consulting company is called Atelier Melka. We're a team of 5-6 winemakers doing harvest. So it's really a teamwork. And we've been doing it. So the company was founded in 1995. I was by myself until, you know, 2000 or so. And then I started to have some players, but in any kind of company, we have a team. We work with many winemakers as well, and so far so good. It's like we find really a good formula. We're really trying to customize every client to make sure we're not repeating the same wine over and over. That'll be very boring. So we really kind of talk to anyone to really understand what they want to create. And if they don't know, we're really trying to push to the next level to really, we need this kind of feel about really what do you want to do? What's your long-term vision ideally? Because if it's just let's have fun and let's make, you know, a couple of batches of wine, we're not too excited about it. We really want to put a brain to make sure each wine is really customized to obviously a story and a philosophy who come 99.9% from the clients or the vineyards.
Yeah, I think actually I would ask the original partners there in Park City, since you're saying you were started in 95 and were working on your own until 2000. Parallel started in 1999. So really, you all created the Parallel portfolio together. So I don't know if Mac or Val or you want to maybe comment on that.
Yeah, it was amazing. We do go back to having brunch with Philippe on our deck in our little house below Sterling Vineyards when we had our little farmhouse there in 99. And he came over and joined us for breakfast. And we didn't even think we'd be in the wine business. We just were buying a place to have a vacation home. And Philippe came over and looked at the land and said, yeah, I think we can grow some good grapes here. So our relationship goes back all these years, which is amazing. And one of the things I was thinking about, you know, when we go into the cave and we see all the barrels, all these barrels are identified with where the wine came from, when it was harvested, and there's such a variety from just one piece of property depending on when the harvest was. And so when Philippe was talking about doing things to get the color, get the acidity, and all this balance, we're not talking about adding little
Chemicals.
chemicals, bottles and stuff. It is really the blending of these barrels. And Philippe and his team for 2 years is going through this, and he's tasting and tasting. And as I understand it, Philippe, from many times when we've been there, we stay out of your way, is that the final decision of what goes into our wine could be way down the road of a year or two of tasting and bringing those wines along. And so when you want more color or a certain style, that decision is really made just before bottling, because you're trying to get that perfect blend that we as partners in Park City expressed many years ago, the type of blend that we would like to see. And it's an amazing process, and that you can identify from all those barrels what is going to make the perfect wine down the road. And it's mind blowing. We stay out of that. I ruined my taste buds in college, so I could never go there.
Well, I think, yeah, you said it well. You know, it's interesting. I just wanted to go back a little bit about how we started, but I think it's important for some of the folks to realize the commitment, because, you know, when we started back in 1999, we decided to hold on a few vintages until we felt like, you know, okay, the quality and everything we decided to do all come together. So it took us a few years, and that's a commitment on, I think, a true vintner. People don't realize how much time and unfortunately cash flow this business, you know, really bring everything down in some regards.
Yeah.
Sorry.
All right, so we're a little over time. I was trying to keep everybody to an hour, but as long as there's questions and Philippe, you're willing to keep on answering. The folks who want to come to Park City, who are in New Jersey right now, had a question. That are having their seafood buffet. Do you have a hand in making World's End? I don't know what that means, but maybe you do.
That was more for Philippe.
Oh, right, yeah. So that's why I was
Oh,
asking.
yeah.
Yeah. But I don't know personally what that means. So maybe that means something to Philippe. I don't know what World's End is.
World's End. I'm like, I had a long lunch, so I'm trying to figure out exactly how to answer this. Can the questions be a little bit detailed, or sorry, or someone can help me out?
Yeah.
Sure. We were wondering if you have any knowledge or experience with the World's End label.
Oh no, I do not. I'm sorry.
Okay, good.
But you know what it is.
I don't.
Refresh my memory.
Okay. Oh yeah. Sorry. Here we go.
It's an interesting wine that they do not tell you who the maker is, and there was a rumor that potentially you were involved
Because
in
it has your
so.
flavor.
That's it. I remember the company now that you mentioned. I'm not involved with those guys.
Okay.
Thank you. So that's why I was like,
World's End.
I know. It's like, I don't know what that means.
Positive does it.
no, I got you. It's a good one. I don't know. So I'm sorry to say I'm going to need to run in a few 5 minutes.
Is there any last minute, anything more on the chat, or so I think we can wrap up.
Thank you, Philippe.
Can we just say thank you all?
Thank you.
Thank you.
It was so nice to meet the Parallel owners. We've never met you guys before.
We'll see you tomorrow
in this
night.
format, so we can't wait to meet you in Utah like tomorrow.
You guys will be on a plane.
Yeah.
Peterborough at 8 a.m.
The powder is up to your shoulders almost.
Yeah, wonderful. So
whenever you come out to Park City, definitely give us a call.
We will.
Okay.
Thank you all so much.
Okay, nice.
Bye. Happy New
Thank you.
Year.
Happy
Thank
New
you.
Year.
Thank you. Yep.
Okay, thanks, Philippe.
Good night.
Thank you guys.
Bye.
Thanks, Adrian.
Thank you, Adrian.
Thank you, Adrian.
Thanks, Adrian.
Thanks.
I learn something new every time.
Yes.
All right. Good night. Good night. Good night. Good night. Good night. All right. We're going to.